Hey there, good people. Welcome to another episode of the Finnovator with me, Stuart Bell, business coach, founder of our Dairy Coaching Consulting, and creator of the Wealth Pyramid. This is a really short podcast this time around, and I'm not entirely sure it's going to work because what I'm trying to articulate or show, or I showed in the training that this is related to, is a model, a visual framework that I adopted or started teaching in the program many, many years ago. And it's gone on to become one of the most important methods that clients who work with me are able to represent their advice, their value, and their methodology to prospective clients to get conversion. It's called the Wealth Pyramid. It's based around the idea that when you can draw something in a framework on a page, it makes it much easier for clients to understand. It's also based around the philosophy that, if you're talking about your expertise as an advisor, it's nowhere near as powerful as if you're talking about the fact that you have a system at the core of what you do, which, if followed, will help your clients to achieve certainty in their future wealth creation journey. More certainty than they could do by themselves. And it's incredibly powerful. But I'll leave you to go through it. It's one of a number of visual frameworks that I teach as part of my coaching personally, because I think that when you can draw something or show something in a model, you're communicating in many different ways. And as always, if you're interested in this or understanding this and about the 20 or 30 other frameworks that exist, feel free to head over to the website, ourdairy.com.au, check out some of the information out there, check out some of the blogs, and of course, if you want to take the next step, book some time and we'll have a bit of a chat. But anyway, I'll leave you to check this out, the Wealth Pyramid, and let me know if you have any questions. I'll speak to you soon. So let's break it down. The first template, and again, you might recognize some of these, we've updated a few of them. The first one is kind of a new client template. And for those of you who've done some work with me on, closing out your first appointment or explaining really importantly to clients, why they should work with you, what your business is all about and how it works, this is essentially the template that you might be interested in. Typically, this is a prompter. You pull it out at the end of the meeting once you've had a discussion. You've scoped out for the client what the outcome they're looking to get, where they're at now, and the gap between the two. And then the conversation flips from diagnostic to declarative. In other words, telling them, by the sounds of it, here are the biggest issues you have as a business, and here is what I would do if I were working with you and the outcome you could get. At that point, you usually have that conversation. Yeah, it does make a lot of sense to clients. Thank you for popping that in, Elizabeth. I'm glad. Yeah, it makes it a lot easier when you pop it out. The first step in that process is why. These are the problems I see, and these are the impacts you've told me they're having on your situation. Great. So if you were working together, here's 3 things that we would do to kick it off. And we put a nice a handle on it, a strategy handle to make it more sort of understandable. In other words, a term that isn't jargon, which makes it accessible. And here's the outcome that typically clients get when we go through this process. You then generally pause and you go, does that make sense? Are you comfortable with that? Where would you like to go from here? And they'll go, well, tell me a bit about your business. At this point, I would pull out this first appointment explainer. Now, usually I'd suggest having it on A4. I suggest laminating it, and it's double-sided. And I'd usually start by saying, well, cool, but let me explain a bit about how, what we do and how it works. But before we do, let me just explain who we work with. So our business is built around specializing in 3 types of clients. And again, you can personalize these for you. We work with business owners who are typically seeking better ways to create wealth, personal wealth, beyond just their commercial wealth. We also work with ambitious professional people who want to make best use of their executive careers. And finally, we work with pre- and post-retirees who have worked hard now and they want to sort of bank, get some certainty on their future. Does that sound like where you're coming from? And typically, if you're sitting in front of the right clients, they'll say, yeah, that sounds like what we're sort of looking for. Great. So let me explain a bit about the ethos of our business. We tend to think of wealth as being our system. And the end goal that we're all aiming for is financial freedom. And that looks different for different people. The precursor to financial freedom, we need to create income that's nothing to do with work. To do that, we have to create assets that accumulate and compound over time. Some will generate income, but ultimately we want to put that income back into increasing the assets. But to do that, there's kind of a foundational point. A lot of people come into financial planning think it's all about that, and often it's not. There's a foundational point to begin with, which is we've got to make sure that you are ideally not spending more than you're earning. Otherwise, you end up pulling back on debt and assets. We want to optimize your debt, maximize appreciating debt, minimize depreciating. We want to make sure you got a plan B if anything goes wrong, and we probably want to get some of the structuring right. Now, this is usually an 18 to 24-month journey for most clients, getting it all sorted, getting on the right track. This can be anything from 5 to 30 years. This is typically a 10-year transition, and this can be up to 30 years. And each of these areas is an opportunity to optimize things and make sure we get it right. Again, I'd stop at that point and say, does that make sense? You comfortable with this? Where would you like to go from here? And most clients will go, well, tell me a bit about, how it works. How do we engage you? At this point, you typically flip it over. You say, okay, great. Let me explain our process. So as I said, the starting point for most clients, and again, I'd pick 2 or 3, and probably even, there's 2 ways you can do this. You can have as a laminate, or if you really want to get fancy, I would print out a number of these and actually draw all over them and then give them to the client at the end of the meeting. So starting point time, clients typically come to us for a number of different things, and I'd pick the ones that are relevant to your clients. Keen to explore possibilities, as we've spoken about today, typically concerned about risk, and really unclear about their options. We take them through really 3 things that I'd want from if I myself was looking for a planner, and they are a clear plan, a clear way of managing things day after day, and access to support. So in our world, the clear plan, the first bit is about what we've done today, which is scope, what that looks like, get an understanding of your wealth position and sort of the gap between where you want to be and what's going on right now. Sit down and put a strategic blueprint, an idea, and have a discussion around what strategies might suit, at which point we fully document this with a proposed action program that we call an SOA, and then we'd implement it for you and put it into action. At that point, you've got a plan, you're on the right track. But you know what? Financial plans are not a set and forget strategy, and there's a whole bunch of stuff that can happen along the route, and we've got to make sure that when anything happens, typically either you or we respond to it, and which means we were going to give you a system for managing it beyond that, which we call the management strategy, which is about reviewing performance and progress, managing the strategy, staying up to date on changes. We also offer a claims assistance guarantee. And then finally, you want someone to turn to when it needs help and it needs fixed, which includes access to the team and I, additional advice if needed, knowledge center, whatever your bits and pieces are. The outcome at the end is you've got a clear plan. We'll have you the right structures. We'll reduce your tax, whatever the outcomes might be. So the only thing we haven't spoken about is sort of the fees involved. So let me tell you a bit about how we charge. We are a flat fee, no commission business, or whatever your model is. We charge a project fee for the initial work, annual retainer paid monthly. Our project fee ranges from about X to X, big fee first. But I think in your case, the project fee is going to be in the region of $5,000 to $3,000. I'd like to confirm that. And then we work with clients on an ongoing basis, which can range. By the way, if we work together, how would you see that happening? You might also want to say, look, beyond that, I want to let you know that there's no surprises. All work is quoted before commencement. We've got a no value, no work guarantee, which means if it's not in your best interest, we won't do it. You end up with a comprehensive financial plan, and most importantly, you have complete control. You make the decisions. Does that make sense? Are you comfortable with that? Where would you like to go from here? And then finally, do you have any questions about this, and would you like to proceed? Hey there, good people. Well, there you have it. There's the wealth pyramid. I hope it's short and sweet, but of course, if you'd like more information or you'd like to see a bit more, maybe even go over and be able to actually see the wealth pyramid, do head over to the website, audere.com.au. That's audere.com.au, and head over to the blog section and just type in wealth pyramid and you'll find it. That's it from me for another episode of the Finnovator. We have more coming in the next couple of weeks. We're ramping up. And again, sharing not only some of those masterclass interviews that have formed such the core part of this podcast over the past few years, but also I'm sharing more of the training modules that I've been delivering and designing and I guess improving over the past few years. I'm going to be diving into the world of marketing. I'm going to be sharing how to make running client surveys a lot simpler. I'm going to talk a little bit about pricing, which I know is always a hot topic, and we're going to be diving into a little bit more about how to make your onboarding process as good as possible. But other than that, if you love the podcast, I'd love it if you could pop over to the review section and leave a review, leave a bit of wording on that, and that'll kind of give me a bit of sense of what's working for you. But other than that, I'll speak to you soon.